welcome back. Well, in this session I think we're going to add an expression to our propeller that will allow us to vary its speed, as we've got here. We've got an attribute called prop speed. So let's get cracking. Well, first of all, what I want to do is select our point controller or point connection prop there. Make sure that angle snaps on, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. 95, there we go, 90 degrees. Let's just pop into our top viewport to make sure that that is correct. Yeah, lovely. Now that we have X as our primary rotation axis, we can possibly lock this off. So curves editor, as we can see there it is. So we want the Z rotation, lock, Y rotation, lock. Let's close that down. Let's pop into our layers manager for a moment and we'll unhide the prop. There we go. Now into perspective. Let's zoom round. And now I'm going to pop into our schematic view, and there we are with our point connection prop, and I'm going to link that to the fuselage. With that linked to the fuselage, I'm now going to link the nose cone base element. Come down a little bit, a bit more. There we go. Link that one to there. And now close this down. Okay, everything looks fine on that. How does it rotate though? Let's have a look. Well, yes, it does rotate along the X axis. Excellent. Let's undo that. And now with our point connection selected, we're going to pop into our motion panel. Left click to select that. Okay, now what we want to do is go in or open up our assign controller, and here we can see that we're presented with transform position. What we're looking for is our rotation, so we've got position, rotation and scale. It's the rotation we want, Euler X, Y, Z. Okay, let's open up, left click on that, and what we're looking for is the X rotation. So select X rotation, and now we're popping up to this icon here, assign controller. Left click on this. Now it's set at Bezier float by default. What we want is float expression. So click on that, say OK, and now we're presented with the expression control dialog menu or box. Now at first glance it looks rather daunting, but as with anything, once we get to know it, we think, well, how the hell did we get by without it? Alright, we need to start by creating a variable. Now we'll start off with prop, do an underscore, and then go speed. Now we have two radios here, scalar and vector. Now with scalar, well, that means working with magnitude. Vector means working with magnitude and direction. So if we wanted to use all three axes, in other words X, Y and Z, then we'd use vector. But as we're only working with the X axis, then it's scalar. So we've got scalar. Now that we've put this in, we need to create it. So let's press create. It places it down here as scalars, or within the scalars section. Now before we assign a controller, Right, let's just have a look at this, because we've got to ask a question: how are we going to use a variable to actually cause the prop to spin in time? Well, if we have a look down here, we can see t equals ticks, s equals seconds, and that relates to our timeline here. So if we say ticks, well, that means every section of this timeline. If we go seconds, then, well, that means it's going to go a little bit slower with frames or with normal time. It's basically related to time itself, which is also governed by our time configuration down here. Again, we'll have a look at that later on when it starts coming to the time for animation. But let's say that seconds means it's going to be slower than frames or than ticks, and normal time is a little bit slower than seconds. So we're going to use seconds. So if we pop up here and type in S, actually this needs to be capital S, so I'll press Shift, capital S, and now if we come down to debug, it's having a look, looking through the expression, it's saying yes, 0, so it's telling us that there's no errors there at all, and it's good to use. So we can go close, and then what we need to do is press evaluate. Once we've done the evaluate and everything's fine, we can close this down, and now if we hit play, there we go, the prop is rotating, but as you can see, it's rotating at a constant speed. Okay, so let's just stop this for a moment. Now, if we wanted to break the link from this, the only way we can really do it is by popping in to our assign controller and selecting the Bezier float. So that's something to remember, because that's the only way we can do it. Well, we're going to cancel that. So now I want to get back into our expression controller, and a way to do that is actually pop over where we've got it highlighted there, right click, and we go to properties. But very quickly, let's just have a look at this, because if we were to select the Y or the Z rotation and we right click, you can see that we don't have access to properties. So that tells us that those have not been assigned. So into X, properties, and click that, and now we come back to our expression controller. So this is our expression, this is our variable, and what I'm going to do now is select the variable there. I'm also going to pop down to the screen and click on our control curve. That just helps us in identifying our controller, because now what I want to do is click on here, assign controller, and here we go. We can see that we've got CC Messerschmitt. Now there is all these others connected to it, such as our point connection fuselage, but what we're looking for is the plus sign there right next to it. So let's click on that. We have our modified objects. If you remember, all our controls are in the modified object section, so let's click on that. Attribute holder down there, click on that. Custom attributes, there we go, and here we are, prop speed. So if we now select that, we can say OK. Now it's simply a case of popping up and completing our expression. So what we want to do is go speed times, and then we're going to say what's our variable. Well, the variable is the prop speed. Now don't be confused, because this is the variable, even though we've given it the same name as our attribute in our control curve. This is the variable. We could have had this as x, so it would be s times x, but in this case it's s times, and we've got to type this in exactly as it is done here. So it is prop underscore speed. And now we can go debug, can close that, evaluate, and now we can close this down, press play, and nothing should be happening. And the fact that nothing isn't happening means it's probably worked okay. Let's just stop that. Okay, now, so let's come out of that. In fact, let's go into modify, and as we can see, our prop speed is set to 0, and that's why it wasn't rotating. But let's set it rotating now. It's not doing anything. What if we increase this? There we go. Okay, let's just stop this for a moment now. So we can see that we can actually increase or decrease our propeller speed. Whether we need 10 in this is debatable. In fact, what we could do is go Alt 1. Let's have a look. Edit, delete, prop speed. What have we got? We've got that at 160. Let's make it 100, the width. From 0 to 100, no. Let's make that, say, 10. And apply the changes. I think 100 was way too much. 10 is about right. And when it comes to it, you won't really see the effect it is having in our viewport. It's only when you start rendering that you see the effects. Okay, let's close that down. Incidentally, let me just select this again and pop into our motion and look at properties again. Now, it is a very useful little tool, is this, something to become familiar with, and if you did want to know what functions are available, then pop in here, have a look at the functions list, and there you go, absolute value of x, etc. Brings back memories, does all this, from many years ago. Okay, well, there you go, you can work on that till your heart's content. Well, we'll call that it for this session. In the next session we'll see about adding some more expressions. Well, I'll catch you later.